Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hi all, welcome to yet another episode of Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on commodities. India is the largest plastic waste generator in the world and produces approximately 26,000 tons of plastic waste every day. India generates 5.6 million tons of plastics every year from packaging alone. A recent study found that every salt and sugar brand in India at present contains microplastics. Unfortunately, India now leads the world in plastic emissions, accounting for nearly 20% of global plastic pollution. A study estimates that India emits around 9.3 million tons of plastics into the environment each year, surpassing other major polluters such as Nigeria, Indonesia, China. Only 60% of plastic waste is recycled in the country. Studies show that countries in the global south also struggle with inadequate public infrastructure. Talk about these issues and more. We have with us Mr. Anant Vaibhav, founder Bambrew, which has come up with innovative, biodegradable, and home compostable solutions. Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on commodities. Mr. Vaibhav Anant, India is the largest plastic waste generator in the world, producing 26,000 tons per day. What's the reason for such a huge plastic waste generation in the country?
Well, thank you, Mr. Subramani, for having me here and giving me the opportunity. Well, as you rightly mentioned, India is the largest producer of plastic. There are various reasons to it. India is one of the highly populated country, and because of which the consumption of the material is very high. There's widespread use of single-use plastics everywhere, like right from your packaging to anything that you do today. Say, for example, agriculture, we use mulch films and so on and so forth. Plus, there is lack of waste management systems which are inefficient in nature, and I don't blame the system for it. Basically, the nature of it. It's very difficult to segregate the waste at the source, put it into the right stream of recycling, and so on and so forth. Then, as the population is growing, consumerism is growing, and as the consumerism is growing, there's an increased need of the packaging everywhere, right? So the plastics being used in the packaging all across the consumer goods as well. Then you have inconsistent recycling and plastic disposal systems, which is omnipresent everywhere, not only in India, but everywhere else as well. It's very inconsistent right now, because of which you would see 93% of the plastics are not getting recycled today. Is because of the inconsistency into the disposal systems that we have. Then, you and me, people like us, are not very well aware about the regulations, or which is what to use and what to not use, basically. So there's a lack of awareness into the public as well, which is where they think the sustainable materials are expensive and we have to use plastics. So that's again one of the reasons. Then you have we are using mulch films in agriculture industries to retain the insulation which is required at the farming place. So that also leads a lot of microplastics into the crops that's been that we are growing, and then it leaches out in the form of microplastics into it, and it degrades the quality of crops as well, and then it some way reaches out to our food as well. And there tourism is also leading to it. People traveling to, you can say, Himalayas and everything. You will see lot many places. We carry water bottles with us. We carry snacks packets with us, and then we'll throw it out. So it's basically lack of awareness among the people, and the lack of disposal systems is there, and other options that I mentioned. So yeah, that's these are some of the reasons because of which we have become the largest polluter of the single-use plastics in the world.
What is the impact of this waste generation on the country, its ecology, and environment?
The impact is very wide. You can see the impact in our day-to-day lives. I'm sure you would have come across discovery of microplastics into the human blood, into the food, into the entire value chain of the food system that we are having today. So I'll dissect it into different parts. So there is environmental problem anyway because of the release of methane gases into the environment and the GHG emissions that it leads to is there. Then it is impacting the marine life. As I mentioned, it has reached to the people or the fishes in the ocean eats up these microplastics and through them it reaches to us, right? As I mentioned, it has also reached to our reproductive organs, right? The microplastics have been found there as well, which is impacting the human health overall. Agriculture, as I mentioned, is one of the areas that is getting impacted, and also the economic impact that is creating overall. So I think these are some of the areas where the impact is very widely spread.
How does plastic waste affect agriculture and water in India? What are the dangers of the presence of microplastics in sugar and salt packaging?
I think the presence of microplastics in soil is diluting the quality of the soil completely. And over the period of years, you would have seen there's a decline on the soil quality content because of the presence of the microplastics. And that is because we are using a lot of plastics in our agriculture system, which is basically polluting the soil and declining the fertility of the soil. And it also is leading to contamination of the crops. The water resources, on the other hand, is also getting affected because through rivers it reaches to ocean and then it reaches to ultimately the entire ecosystem is getting impacted, right from your soil to your water to your health, human health, or to the animals as well. You would see a lot of places or the videos which have come where the mammals like cows have eaten up these plastics and it's being taken out from their stomach. So that's very painful to see, and it has reached everywhere. It's not that one place we can see it has reached. Regarding the salt and sugar sachets, so the majority of the microplastics that you consume today comes from your water bottle and also from these packets. So there's a very thin layer of roughly around 12 to 15 microns of plastic which is laminated onto the paper in each every salt sachet or sugar sachet that you go through. It keeps on leaching out microplastics into that salt and sugar day in, day out. For as long as they are kept in, it'll keep on releasing the microplastics into that particular product, which you are eating up, and you're eating up roughly around a kind of plastics in a year's time with that amount. Yeah, so these are the reasons for a lot of diseases which are like idiopathic in nature, which means the reasons are not known, and the science couldn't find the reasons to it. We say it's carcinogenic, but there are multiple or diseases which are caused by these eating up of these microplastics, right? So yeah.
Will shifting to eco-friendly and environmentally packaging help in overcoming this problem?
Yeah, so I think people need to know, and the awareness is very important to be created among the consumers that what are the ill effects of these plastics when they are consuming it, or the attitude in India is like it's okay for today. The people don't think about long term. People don't think about the future generations to come. So I think we need to make people more aware on the usage of the product. And sustainability does not only mean eco-friendly products. Right? Sustainability at all levels means, it has to be functional. So if I give you paper and I want you to carry water, you'll not be able to carry in a paper pouch, right? You need that kind of performance into that particular product which you have created to contain water for people to drink. Why the adoption is not happening is because of performance of the eco-friendly or a sustainable product is not there per se, or people are not aware about these products which are available ecosystem right now. So yes, adopting to a sustainable product will definitely solve for it. There is no question behind that how would people adopt to it. People need to be aware about there are some products which are available into the market and they can switch over to that at no extra cost. Even if there is a little bit of extra cost, I don't think that should be a problem for consumers at all.
How can bamboo fill the space of preventing waste generation?
See, bamboo is a very versatile material. Although we are not a bamboo centric company, we are a material agnostic company. We start our journey with bamboo, and today we work with bamboo extensively. However, we use multiple other products as well in development of the product that we do. Bamboo is one of the very versatile product, right from the shoot to your leaves. Everything is utilized in some form or the other, right? So, and India is one of the second largest producer, not one of the, it's the second largest producer of bamboo in the world, right? After China, with 16 million hectares covered under bamboo today. Majority of it comes under the government land, which is the forest land and the government owned land, 70%. So I think the usage of bamboo already, if you see Bangalore Airport Terminal 2, is completely made up of bamboo, right? So there are various uses of bamboo into our day-to-day life, which we can accommodate and make sure we are not, using toxic plastics into the ecosystem that we are living in today. So multiple products can be made, right, from your bamboo toothbrushes to your tongue cleaners, which we don't really know that is harming us on a day-to-day life. So if you're using your bristles, which are plastics, the toothbrush that we use, the amount of microplastics it releases, it's humongous, right? So why we need to change toothbrush if there is no microplastic leaching out? Because it gets used out, right, over the period of time, and that's why we have to change over the toothbrushes. So there are multiple ways bamboo can add to the sustainability at large.
The World Global Plastic Treaty meeting is held currently. That's the Global Plastic Treaty scheduled to take place from November 25 to December 1 in South Korea. So, what do you think should be critical, or what your expectations are with regard to this meeting, and what could India do?
Well, I slightly agree with India points and slightly would like to add up a little bit more on that, is because what India stands for is not the reduction of production of plastics, rather the management of it, which I agree with, the basically the downstream of it, right? Partly I agree with what India stands points are on the saying that, we should be better at managing our waste, managing our plastics, which is extremely strong move. If you see, India is one of the leading countries at the global stage advocating for sustainability. So we need to understand what we are talking about here and how can we solve for it. Just putting a blanket ban will not solve for the problem, right? So there are upstreams and there are downstreams of plastics. So upstreams talks about the source, where we are sourcing the material from, and the downstream talks about how we are managing those waste, right? So at Bambrew, what we are trying to solve for is the downstream, which the thought process is completely aligned with the India authorities as well, and what is the standpoint of India at the global treaty level. So we are also trying to solve for the downstream, which means that you create a material where, source could be petrochemical, no problem, but your downstream, there should not be any kind of microplastics, which is not hampering the environment in any way. Today, the bio-based source have not seen the product market fit into the ecosystem, and it will take another 30, 40 years, I believe, to scale that to a 450 million plastic replacement to be done, right? So I completely agree with what the global alliances have to say, and what's India's standpoint on the downstream is there. So yes, we need to solve for both upstream and downstream, but the first step for us to solve for is the downstream, and then look for the upstream to be solved.
Thank you, Mr. Vaibhav Anand. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Mr. Subramani.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
speaking with you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all for listeners for tuning in. Until we meet in our next episode, this is Subramani signing off.